Perhaps after all, there is no God. It's very cold today, still ice on the ground. It's as cold as it's been all year in 2022, but here in England it's hard to feel that we can't cope with things. We get quite cross, in fact, about trains and buses and things packing up because of the cold, because we feel everything ought to be in place. And news stories are dominated when people run short. But of course it wasn't always like this. In the past, the threat of famine, the threat of death through the failure of crops was a very real problem that people had to face. And I'd like to just wind back in time to think about why and how religion started, because the start of religion is of course something which very much has come to shape our culture and our society. When you look at the country around us, you can see that the earth seems quite cold and quite dead. And you can imagine that ancient people would have to try their best to maximize their chances of tackling life in such a situation. For that reason, things like the winter solstice, when the days started getting longer again, obviously took on a massive importance. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are the noumena, the spirits that came to be seen as dominating the natural world. And the thing with the noumena was that they weren't gods in the sense that we would recognize the word God now. They were more forces, sometimes personalized forces, that were connected with things like the rain, massively important, the river. I do not know much about gods, but I think the river is a god, as T.S. Eliot said. And as time went by, those noumena took on an appearance, and sometimes they took on the appearance of animals, very amorphic noumena as we call those, and those animals became associated with the thing itself. And ancient people used to think that by propitiating or making an offering to those noumena, they could maximize their chances of survival. And there, my friends, you have the beginning and the origins of religion. Tied in against this is this very simple fact. Our earliest records of human beings are the records of their dead bodies. And right from the beginning, it seems that those dead bodies were buried in some sort of sense of ceremony, almost as if there was some consideration and some belief that there would be some post-death survival. And so those noumena also got drawn into ideas and beliefs not only about maximizing your chance in this life, but also in the next. The ancient Egyptians, as is well known, used to mummify their human remains because they believed that an actual physical representation was important for that afterlife. But interestingly, and many of you will know this, they also mummified animals. Why? Because those animals represented those numinal forces. And those noumena were something that allowed people to survive and prosper and do well. Now, as civilizations developed and grew in Egypt and in Mesopotamia, and they formed cities, it was from that point and that point onwards that actually they took on human leaders. And those human leaders, whether you call them kings or whatever you called them, that took their power through military might very often, also became associated with divine forces. And in my next presentation, I want to talk about the way that religion changed to become more, as we would call it, anthropomorphic, more linked to humans. But for now, let us reflect on the spiritual powers that exist in nature, our earliest religious beliefs. Hope you liked that. Click on like on the video if you did. Follow the channel, that would be marvellous. Compliments of the season to you. Take care. Thank you.